Really enjoy. It's so hard to follow somebody like you. You're just great. So the story I am going to tell was created from a story prompt, as many of you know. And the story prompt was find a picture and tell a story about it. So I want to show you this picture first before I start the story because it will be relevant. So I'm going to do a little screen share. Oops, see this one here. Can you all see this picture? This is a picture of the woman in the middle is my mother. This fellow over here is Uncle John. This is Uncle Bob. This is Uncle Bill. And I don't know if you can see the guy on the far right is Uncle Paul. And Uncle Paul will be in the story. Close this up, but this is a great picture, isn't it? It's in the 40s. Look at those wide lapels, just amazing. And my mother looks so debonair with that hat. Ah, that was a, anyway. You know, I have never been the person that wins the door prize. I don't win the lotto. And Publishers Clearinghouse has never come to my door. But I do have a really good life. You know, and it seems to me good luck is what you call it when you get what you desire. Bad luck is the undesired outcome. You know, you play the lotto and you win $500 and it's good luck. And if you don't win anything, it's bad luck. But it isn't quite as simple as that. You know, getting pregnant while my marriage was disintegrating was not a desired outcome. Beating the 99.9% effectiveness of my birth control was not really what I had wanted. But as it turns out, having that baby boy was the best thing I ever did. He was my Publishers Clearinghouse, he was the lotto, and he was the door prize of my life. You know, and also, you know, divorcing my husband wasn't really what I'd hoped for. It wasn't the desired outcome. I was waiting for the happily ever after. But, you know, countless times, since my divorce, I've thought, boy, if I was still married, I couldn't have this much fun. I wouldn't have been able to go contra dancing at the women's gym in Stanford or dance the Argentine tango in Buenos Aires. I wouldn't be able to travel to Tahiti or England or Italy or Germany, all those places because my husband didn't like to travel. So nowadays I see my divorce as good luck. It was not a bad outcome. Now, when my parents died when we were children, and I'm talking about my twin sister Carol and I'm not going to put a happy face on that, but we knew we had 4 uncles, as you saw in the picture, my mother's brother. And so it seemed really likely that we would go live with one of them. But none of the uncles came forward to take us. And we ended up with unrelated foster parents. And I found that pretty confusing as a child and a little bit hurtful. I knew that Uncle Paul was really well off. And we really never heard much from the uncles, you know, most of our childhood. But when we were in our 30s and the 80s, we found Uncle Paul Kirk in the phone book. Remember those? And we arranged to meet him at his place in Los Altos. At that time, I had been raising my son. I put myself through college. I bought a house. I was building a good career in Silicon Valley. And at this visit, I found out that Uncle Paul had put almost all his kids through Ivy League colleges. And I was kind of pissed. Like, man, if he'd adopted us, I could have gone to Stanford. And he was kind of pompous and self-absorbed, but still, I'd had to work my ass off to get what I had at that point, and it would have been easy street at that point if he took us in. Well, after my retirement, a couple of 3 years ago, I started doing Ancestry.com, as a lot of us do. And a couple of cousins from one of the other uncles, the one on the far left, found us. And then the whole cousin thing snowballed, and soon we were talking to a number of Uncle Paul. Uncle Paul had 9 kids. And this was really exciting, but it was in the middle of COVID, and we, couldn't meet right away. However, one of the Uncle Paul cousins, Brian, decided to visit anyway. And my sister and I sat on my big deck outside, 6 feet apart, and drank some wine with him. But I tell you, he misogynistically declared every woman in his life mentally ill, including my mother, who we didn't even know. And he was alcoholic. He just kept drinking and drinking. Made a pass at my sister, Carol, too. I mean, we're first cousins. What a putz. Well, last October, this past October, we did organize a Kirk family. I call it the Cousin Palooza. And the 2 cousins from the South came out to California and met up with me, and then we met with some of Uncle Paul's daughters. We had lunch together. As we went around the room, each woman talked about her life with Uncle Paul. It seems like the women, the daughters in the family, took a special brand of his abuse. Kathy, she was fragile, quiet. Liz was outgoing, but she talked about how Uncle Paul would just rage at very small things. And Alice said he never thought they were smart enough for anything. He rated them all the time, and she had been in therapy for years. Every one of those cousins, Uncle Paul's kids, talked about how awful he'd been. Whew. Well, my twin sister, Carol, hadn't been able to go to lunch that day. She was working. So I called her that night. I said, hey, Carol, even though our parents died when we were little, I think we might be the sanest of the cousins in the bunch. I think we dodged a bullet by not going with Uncle Paul. When you don't get what you want, sometimes your bad luck is really your good luck. You just don't know it yet.
Thank you, Claire. Thanks for sharing that picture. We got a picture worth 1,000 words and a story together. Awesome.